How do we upskill our teachers for this challenge quickly and effectively?
Well, good morning. I think we've got a real challenge in terms of equipping our teachers. Our teachers are skilled professionals, they know what they're doing, but we need to resource them in order to pivot to that remote, distant learning and teaching. We need to think about what it looks like to equip them in order to do that. And we need to think about how we plan to deliver our education. So things like, can we connect teachers? Can we share with them things that are working well, things that aren't working well? We know from the research that we have done that many teachers are challenged by how to keep their students engaged as they plan distance learning and teaching, how to plan engaging lessons and deliver them. So it's really about connecting teachers with each other. It's really about sharing what works and what doesn't work.
How do we deal with this excessive screen time? We see the problem even when life is ticking by normally, but now that we have our children on screens more and more, it's been documented that their personalities change if they get too much of the screens.
Absolutely. And as you say, we've been aware of the challenge of screen time for quite some time. It's not new. And as we go into this time, we are aware that young people are spending more and more time on their screens. And so I think we need to look at ways to supplement that screen time, to take them away from the screen time, rather than say there is not going to be any screen time or we're not going to do this or that on screens. Look at ways to extend or apply that screen time learning afterwards. Things like, can you take the TV show that you've just watched and get young people to draw a picture of their favourite character, describe the characteristics of their favourite character. And let's remember, as we're stuck at home, particularly on weekends and evenings, parents are there as well. There are things that we can be doing to engage our young people away from screens. You know, old-fashioned board games, card games, even things like jigsaw puzzles that we heard the Prime Minister talk about earlier on in the week, and so on. And really looking at how we can engage our young people at home, but also think about things that we can extend. Is there practical chores around the house that they can be involved in that's also about the learning that they're engaged in? Let's not forget the importance of things like reading and trying to encourage them to read. And there's a number of online resources out there that are providing audiobooks for free. And whilst that's a digital solution, it's not active screen time. So looking for resources to supplement the screen time and looking to extend beyond the screen time is really important.
How does homework look like in this time?
I think homework's a really interesting one. We know that even before this crisis, homework is a hot potato conversation. Some schools provide homework, some schools don't. And I think what we have to focus in on is learning right now. It's not about where the learning happens, but it's about the important learning that needs to happen. So I think it's almost a mute subject to talk about homework. It's more important to think about the learning that's happening. How can we give learning opportunities to our children as teachers and as parents? What are the learning opportunities? Homework is all about extending the learning. It's all about consolidating the learning. It's all about confirming the learning. So really, I think the conversation around homework is a mute one at the moment, although I think as we get through this crisis and come out the other end, we will certainly reflect on what homework is, where it fits in to that learning journey and what it means to have effective home learning. Because I think that phrase, homework is unhelpful, it's about home learning. And so really, we need to think about the learning that's happening at home beyond this idea of homework and classwork.
I think we're all hopeful that the news just gets brighter and brighter and the whole education system gets back to normal as soon as possible. But you mentioned the homework. How does the whole education look on the other side, do you think, when we come back?
I think that's a great question, and I think that's a really challenging one. You know, the education system that we all know is probably quite an industrial model. It's quite traditional in terms of what we've done. And I think as we go through this journey, as we journey through the challenges that we face, we'll be able to recalibrate what learning means, what teaching means. I think we will see that we have much more capacity to deliver education in a variety of modes. We'll see that we have much more capacity to approach it flexibly, and we'll learn things as teachers and educators that we probably wouldn't have if we hadn't been faced with this challenge. We'll learn new ways of delivering things. We'll learn new ways of engaging our young people. And I think when we get to the other side of this, I think we can be incredibly sure that learning and teaching, that education will not be the same. Things will change, things will develop, there will be things that we will learn and therefore use that we wouldn't have thought about doing before. So I think at the end of this, we'll actually have hotbedded a whole host of learning that will allow us to improve the learning and teaching for our young people.